Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast session with Daniel Bolus, representing Club Health on the Zero Hiccup podcast. Daniel, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Good to be here.
Where are you joining from, Daniel, today?
Joining from Seattle, Washington.
Okay, cool. It must be pretty cold, I believe.
It's not too bad today. Not too bad.
Okay, great, great, great. So, how has been your day today, and how is the new year starting for you at Club Health? How are things?
It's going pretty well. We we've been onboarding a few companies that launched a few months ago, the platform, and have really been enjoying seeing the response from employers and employees. And we can talk about all of that on this podcast.
Sure, sure. In fact, we definitely like to deep dive into, your success mantra and how, you have been growing Club Health. So, before we move to that, Daniel, would you like to give a bit more introduction about, like your life till the point you started Club Health, your background and what things you have worked into and what led you to starting Club Health?
Yeah, sure. So to give a little bit about my background, I'm actually from Birmingham, Alabama, and born and raised in kind of a large Lebanese community. Um, have a lot of fun memories of cooking Lebanese food at my church and kind of growing up in a big family is a lot of fun. Went to school at Tulane University and studied biomedical engineering. And then from there, just kind of have been exploring a bunch of different startups, mainly as an employee, and recently started Club Health last year as a founder. So I really enjoy kind of the 0 to 1 experience at a company and going from concept to something that really adds values in someone's everyday life.
Great. So, what was that Eureka moment, Daniel, that you thought about starting Club Health? Was that
Yeah, so
something you
I
thought? Yeah.
kind of funny story, and I'll try to be brief, but we actually started as a food delivery company. So
Oh,
we were
wow.
delivering healthy lunches to workplaces. And we kind of had a unique concept around that. But what we learned from a lot of employers is they have this kind of dedicated wellness stipend, and they were struggling with what we heard kind of across the board. How do we integrate these modern tools that are coming out around mental health and nutrition and more holistic health resources? And over the past few years, especially, there's been a lot of amazing companies that have come and offer mainly subscription-based digital health tools. And so this was just a real struggle for employers with how to deploy these subscription-based products. Even though they were low cost, it didn't really fit in the traditional reimbursement structure. And so that's when we pivoted and came up with the concept of Club Health, which is kind of a one-stop marketplace that manages employee wellness stipends and where employees can choose what they want. And they're all kind of subscription-based products, so very forward thinking, and we've gotten a lot of good response from that.
Okay. Nice, nice. And then tell us more about the initial months of launching this pivot. Like, did you had customers right on day one, or did you struggle with the initial customers? How was that aspect of growing your company?
Yeah, so you always are faced, especially in kind of a marketplace approach, with a chicken and egg problem from many different sides. So one, building up kind of the vendors as well as the employers who would buy into it. And it's kind of hard to have one without the other. So the most difficult thing was just creating the product itself that would then be functional enough to offer to employers. So we really had to think creatively about how we were going to do that. And we have some unique solutions to onboard employees onto different subscription-based products. And based on kind of that innovation and creativity, we were able to create the product at a stage where employers could actually functionally use it. And then at that point, it actually wasn't too difficult to get employers to onboard onto the platform.
Right, right. Okay. Great. So how long it has been, in the market, and would you like to share some numbers, if not exact, like some ratios or anything that you'd like to talk about, Daniel? Like
Yeah, of course,
how
we
does
can talk
success
about
looks
anything.
like? Okay,
So I'm a pretty open book, so don't be shy. We launched about last August 2022 and have since onboarded almost 100 employees from three different companies onto the platform and are looking to grow from there.
great, great, great. And how has been the ratio around sticking to the product? Like you have seen good stickiness with the product, the people that you've onboarded with?
Yeah, so I think what's really compelling, and we can get into this more when we're talking generally about health and wellness, but subscription-driven products are pretty sticky, and because our marketplace is solely around based on subscriptions, it's really interesting and compelling for individuals, employees that are choosing subscriptions, because then they can always go back each month and something that we offer is they can actually update and change their subscriptions based on their current lifestyle. So it's something that's very engaging and also you always have something being on a subscription. And we're strong believers that health and wellness is all about things that kind of behaviors every day rather than something you use once a year.
Right. So let's change gears here a bit, Daniel. Talk more about, how do you manage technology at Club Health currently? Like, do you have in-house team? Do you outsource? Do you have a CTO? Do you have tech consultants? How have you managed your technology? Or you yourself are hands-on with technology?
Yeah, so I am not a technical founder, as in the traditional sense. I can be a little dangerous, which is probably for the worst. But we, knowing
That is
my
the
own
sign,
limits,
actually.
knowing my own limits, we actually onboarded a CTO as a co-founder, and that person has been extremely helpful for our company.
Okay. So I believe for a company like Club Health, technology would form a very important cog in the whole wheel. Is that true? Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so talk to us more about the technology change challenges that as a founder you faced when you were building out Club Health.
Yeah, I think our greatest asset and most difficult challenge is in kind of redefining the subscription management experience. So subscriptions are kind of taking over our lives as most technology companies switch to a subscription driven model over a single purchase model. I think this was most evident in all of our lives when like Microsoft Office switched from being a product you purchased to being a subscription. And that kind of marked, in my opinion, the milestone of most technology companies switching to subscription driven models. And with subscription driven models, as great as they are, and it makes a lot of sense, especially as a technology company, you're paying for maintenance over time rather than a single purchase physical product that doesn't change over time. So it makes a lot of sense. But for consumers, it can be really hard to track. Um, and and so that also makes it really hard to track as a company that is deploying these subscriptions to consumers. So we're basically trying to take the headache away and automate all of that. But because of kind of how difficult it's been, it is a difficult process to automate and deliver as seamlessly as, say an Amazon experience.
Right. So, Daniel, talk more about like how does Club Health measure the impact and success of its platform for companies and their employees? Because I believe that that's one of the central piece of your uh, offering for people. So, how?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think employee wellness is always pretty difficult to measure because it's a fuzzy measurement. It's
Yeah.
not an exact science. But what we track primarily is engagement. So it's kind of embarrassing how low engagement any employee wellness program traditionally gets. And I attribute that to, like, it's not a single person's fault or the HR person's fault. Like, it's just convincing people to change their behavior to live healthy lifestyles is a very difficult challenge that is not to be taken lightly. So we measure our success right now on just how many people are engaging with the platform, choosing products. And almost what's more important to us than that initial product choice is the follow up of after a month or after 2 months, or now even after 3, 4 months, are people coming back to the platform and updating their products based on their lifestyles? And that's where we begin to get a sense of what products are working for them, what products did they believe were interesting for them, but actually wasn't sticky for their lifestyle. And then how do we start to come up with essentially their personal plan and help them through that to actually have a suite of wellness services that they use in their day-to-day life. And that's even just finding one of those products is a huge success. So seeing people stick to products and change products is super important for us. And all of that we kind of umbrella under engagement.
Right. So understanding your user behavior, Daniel, how much of it is based on automation and data, and how much it is human intervention?
Yeah, could you clarify what you mean by human intervention?
Like, do you also take calls based on some of the gut feeling or some of the, let's say, interviews with customers, or is it more driven for you based on data and what you see coming from, say, the reports?
Yeah, for sure. It's a mixture of both. Right now, like I was saying, kind of what we have the most eyes on is just simply what people are choosing, which actually tells us a lot. Because people do consider their wellness stipend as their money. That has been made very clear to us. And so they will choose products that they want or think they want to actually use. And so that's really different than just giving someone a free app. And so that tells us a lot, as well as them changing that over time. But we've also started doing more user interviews for people who are willing to kind of hop on a call and give us some information about how they've been using it or not been using it. And for that, we kind of go back to the hardest challenge in all of this is behavioral change. Since our whole platform and subscription driven products are all kind of driven on certain behaviors, right? And changing those behaviors to become more healthy. Um, Actually doing that, taking the time, people's time is kind of the hardest thing to get. And I think that's what we're constantly striving to figure out how to motivate people to actually use what they've chosen.
Okay. So, Daniel, would you like to tell more about, like, how do you see the future of workplace wellness evolving over time?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting question on many levels because the fact that we talk about wellness in in conjunction with the word workplace is very interesting to me. We're very big about daily wellness, and it just happens to be sponsored by employers, but it could be sponsored by anyone, including yourself or your family members. So we're very interested in just long term, what does wellness mean? And that kind of falls in the same bucket. A lot of people talk about preventative care, preventative health. All those terms kind of end up mixing together right now. And where we think um, and our goal and kind of mind shift, mind frame shift, I guess you can call it, is really
Right.
rewriting that whole like what it means to be health and wellness is very personal, and it changes. So this, what technology allows us to do amazingly, is to be very flexible and personalized, and that's something that I think a lot of people are starting to lean in on. like why do we have to have the same wellness plan for everyone at a company or in society? It really doesn't make sense anymore now that we have the technology to personalize products based on people's lifestyles, and we're a very diverse population worldwide, and it's important to make sure that people know that their health and wellness is personalized, and it's not you can have like models of who you think and who you're trying to be as far as your health, but in my opinion there shouldn't be a standard of who that person is, because you can be an extremely healthy person and never go to the gym, and that is okay. And I think that is something the workplace has really been confused with, since primarily these wellness stipends have been linked to gym memberships. And we're trying to rewrite that story of you don't have to go to the gym every day to be a healthy person. And what does health mean to you? And I think that's the future of health and wellness.
Okay, makes sense, makes sense. And I think a more holistic program, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like right now on Clubhouse, we categorize into, you know, mental health, physical health, fitness, nutrition, relationships. So there's different buckets, but ultimately what we strongly believe is they're all interrelated, and improving one generally improves the others, or has an effect elsewhere. So while we talk about holistic health, again, for us, the main success is if you do anything in any category is a win for us. It doesn't necessarily have to be one specific thing.
So, Daniel, like when you are now building Club Health further, how do you go about deciding which features would take priority in building, as compared to, because I believe
Yeah,
there must always be a wish list that everything
the
is
wish
required to
list
build.
is never ending. You are correct. And I think saying no to certain features is a big asset, because then that helps really define who you are. So I guess to answer that question, we right now, since our main customer is employers, we really prioritize features that are most important to them, and that basically they have to have to use our platform. I mean, we're early stage, so those are important features, like say an integration with some HRIS or anything like that. But as far as ourselves and our company and our values, we're having to say no to a lot of potential avenues we could go, because we're hyper focused on like subscription management and deployment. We're trying not to be too broad, to basically once you're too broad, especially in health and wellness, people get very confused and lost, and then stop engaging. So we're trying to be very very focused on what our main value add is.
Fair enough. And so, Daniel, expanding more on this, so what is the immediate roadmap for 2023? Would you like to share for Club Health?
Yeah, so right now we're raising a small round, and trying to scale.
All the
And
best for that.
say that again.
All the best for that. That's always an
Thank you,
important
thank you.
season in any startup, really.
And from there, really, I mean, sky's the limit. We're really focused right now on being on a lot of employers' radars to help streamline their employee wellness programs, and also just help people, find what works for them is very important to us. And then later, maybe 2024, we'll start thinking about expanding into different verticals as well.
Okay. So last question, and that would be more about Daniel, the guy. So Daniel,
Sure.
you being the CEO of Club Health, so how do you find, what do you think about that responsibility and the role of being the CEO of Club Health, the pros and cons, both of it? How do you define that?
Yeah, I mean, I love kind of my leadership style is, I think everyone really is a genius in a certain field or in a certain personality or in a certain way. And so all I do really is try to find that in other people and then just tell them to run with it. So I enjoy that very much.
Yeah.
And I think this may sound weird, but I think because I'm not good at everything, I allow people to be good at what they're good at. And I think that has been very advantageous
Right.
because
Sometimes
sometimes as a
being
CEO,
accommodative can be a pretty good skill. Yeah,
right. And sometimes as a CEO, it can be hard to trust people with your baby, right? But because I don't know things, I have to trust. And I
you're
think
more
that works
open
out really well.
to learning. Makes sense.
But then responsibility
Definitely.
wise, I think I have a big responsibility to make sure that health and wellness is um, defined correctly, and how I define health and wellness correctly is not defining it. And I think that's super important because I think the second someone with kind of the um, kind of being a model or figurehead of health and wellness, the second they define health a certain way, can impact a lot of people. And I think it can be very dangerous for people who can't attain certain things that is expected from what their version of health and wellness is. And that can be very, I think, toxic for a lot of people.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel, for the enlightening thoughts. And it was really pleasure hosting you and knowing about club health. And I think for our audience, I think there's so much takeaway in building. I mean, I really appreciate that everything you said seemed to be coming from the heart and in a very honest way. So kudos for that. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for having me.